I've created this flip presentation for the Gasconade County R2 Board of Education to explain hows and whys of our 2014 MSIP 5 APR report. Specific examples of how GCR2 performed in 2014 are included, and I'm hoping that this flip presentation will provide an alternative to a traditional approach to informational items. My goal is that this will foster deeper discussion during our board meeting while amplifying your understanding of MSIP 5, the Missouri School Improvement Plan. The objective of this presentation is to provide the Board of Education with knowledge of the MSIP 5 reports and data available for data analysis and planning purposes. Planning is strategizing. It's about making the right moves. It's about making a difference. And we at GCR2 want to be college and career ready. MSIP 5 is broken down into 5 different standards: academic achievement, subgroup achievement, college and career readiness, and attendance rate, as well as graduation rate. Missouri Top 10 by 20 plans holds as a primary goal that all students will graduate high school, college, and career ready. To measure this progress, the goal and to distinguish among other schools, the department computes an APR score for each local educational agency or district. The overall score is comprised of the 5 standards that we just talked about, and then there's status, progress, and growth where applicable, used to calculate a comprehensive score, used to determine the accreditation level of a school district. So the 5 areas actually have point values. You can see academic achievements at 56 that raised the crown. It's the highest number that we have. Subgroup achievement is 14, college career readiness is 30, attendance rate is 10, and graduation rate is 30. A total possible point of 140. So how do we and where do we get all these different numbers? We're going to focus on 2. The first one is a status measure. Status is a measurement of the school or the district's level of achievement based upon a 3-year average of what's called a MAP Performance Index, or MPI. We're going to look at what an MPI is later. There's 4 levels of a status. The top level is 2020 target. It's where DESE wants us to be. Then there's on track, approaching, and floor. The second area is progress measure. We get points here. And this is different because the progress measure is the MPI is also used to measure annual improvement on the MAP assessment. This indicator holds our district and schools accountable for continuous improvement year to year using what's called a rolling average. This method measures improvement by comparing 2-year averages of data and setting targets based on the MPI gap. We're going to talk about that in detail as well. The 4 levels in progress are exceeding, which is the top, on track, approaching, and floor. We at GCR2 are going to focus on approaching because it represents an equal to or greater than 1% increase of the MPI gap. So let's look at our district report card. Out of the 5 areas possible, we received a 93.2% report in 2014, as opposed to an 86.1% in 2013. Our goal, tied to CSEP, is that the Gasconade County R2 School District will earn accredited with distinction status for the district and all buildings by reaching a minimum of 90% of available MSIP points on the APR. We will break each standard down in detail in the following slides. So let's look at standard 1, academic achievement. Again, 56 points out of 140. English language arts is worth 16 points. Math is worth 16. Science is worth 16. And social studies is worth 8. This is our report card broken down into those specific areas. As you can see, in academic achievement, GCR2 earned 91.1% of the total points. That's a big increase from 2013, where we were at 69.6%. You can look at both of these slides, and you can see status score, progress score, and growth score. We're going to go in detail about what the status score is and how we get it, and then what progress score is and how we get that. You can see the comparisons between standard 1 in 2013 as far as 2014. Our scores are different and are higher across the board. So let's look at English Language Arts. The question I'm going to ask you is, what is a Math Performance Index, or MPI? Also, what does a status point mean? So in this slide, we have academic achievement in the area of English Language Arts. In the far right-hand corner, highlighted in yellow, is a number that is 344.3. That is called our MPI, or Math Performance Index. And here's how we get it. There are 4 levels of achievement: below basic, basic, proficient, and advanced. Each level has an index point value. So for example, we have 71 students that scored below basic. So we multiply 71 times 1 and we have 71 index points. The same is true with basic at 3 points, proficient at 4, and advanced at 5. So out of 953 students, we recruited 3,281 index points. When I divide the number of students by the total index points, we get 3.443. Multiply that by 100, and we get an Math Performance Index of 344.3. That's going to be important here when we start talking about numbers and where we're moving. The second area that we look at in academic achievement is, as we said before, a status point is a 3-year average. So we take 2012, 2013, and 2014, and we add those together, and we average that, and we get the number highlighted in yellow, 356.2. That is simply a 3-year MPI status. At the bottom, you see that statuses again fall into the measures of 2020 target, 16 points, on track at 12 points, approaching at 9, and floor a 0. We are at approaching. Although our number is high, we're still at the approaching measurement category. Also have a form of a rubric. You can look at the rubric and see that we received 9 points in the area of status, no points in the area of progress, but we did receive some growth points. So the question is, what is a growth point and how do we get that? Well, the thing about growth points is that they're a little bit different than the other two. And when looking at our growth points, we are measuring independent growth over time. We did receive 6 points here. Growth is not a guarantee. So we will talk about that here in a little bit as well. But our score here is 9, then plus 6. Mathematics. Again, we'll review how to get status points, and then we'll ask the question, how did we receive progress points? So again, we're looking at our numbers. 355.4 is a 3-year MPI status average. Looking down below, we received 9 points out of 16. We're at 355.4. The top of approaching is 358.3. So it's important for us to see that our math scores are moving up, but we are getting close to the on track, but are not quite there yet. You can also see that in our points earned at the very top of the screen, we did receive 3 points for progress. So we're going to talk about what progress is and how did we receive those points. First, that we have to look at is there is a difference between progress and status. Progress is an MPI that's used to measure our math assessment as well, as we said before. The method measures improvement by comparing 2-year averages of data and setting targets based on what's called an MPI gap. At the bottom of your screen, you can see MPI gap at 96.5. The question is, how do we get that? The number in yellow up top, under 2012 and 13, is a 2-year average of year 1 and year 2. We take that number and we subtract it from a constant MPI, our Math Performance Index, of 450 points. This determines what we call a gap. Now, in step 3, the MPI gap is used to establish progress targets as determined by multiplying the MPI gap by the associated percentage. We're looking at, you can get a 5%, which is exceeding, 3%, which is on track, or 1%, which is approaching. We're going to focus on the 1% because that is an obtainable goal. So what we'll look at is we want to find out the gap for us to increase 1% of our kids in the MPI would fall in the areas of 354.5 to 356.3. And as you can see here, at the far right side, at the top of your page, it is a 2-year average of 213 and 14. The biggest part to looking at is that second year average must be larger than the first 2-year average. In this case, year 1 and 2, which is 2012 and 2013, not highlighted in yellow to the right, is the first number. And then we have our second set of numbers, which is highlighted in yellow, which is 356.1. That's year 2 and year 3, which is 13 and 14. That number is larger by 2.6. So we have a positive differential. The arrow is pointing down at the bottom, which means we did show a 1% increase, and we then did receive 3 extra progress points. So 9 plus 3 gave us our 12 out of 16. And this is the goal that we're looking at for all of our areas, is increasing our progress by 1%, thus getting 3 extra points in each category. So let's look at the scoring rubric for math. 9 points for review under status, 3 points for 1% of the MPI map increase, and no growth points that we find. Standard 2, subgroup achievement. This one is worth 14 points, not as large as the first one. It's a super subgroup. Our 2 super subgroups are students with disabilities, our IEP, and students that receive free and reduced lunch. Those are the 2 of our categories that we have for super subgroup. English is worth 4 points, math is worth 4, science is worth 4, and social studies is worth 2. It's divisible by 4 if you look at it, so 4 times 4 is 16, and then 2 times 4 is 8, which is what we have for the standard 1. So here's our score. In our super subgroup, GCR2 earned 71.4% of the total points for subgroup achievement, which is a decrease from 2013. If you look at our scores, 13 is on top, 14 is on the bottom. In English Language Arts, we went from 3 points to 2 out of 4. In math, we stayed at 3 out of 4 to 3 out of 4. In science, we were at 4 out of 4 and 4 out of 4. And in social studies, we went down from 2 to 1. So the total change is from 12 out of 14 to 10 out of 14. So we did have a decrease, and we are working on looking at how we can better identify our students' needs in this area. Standard 3, our college and career readiness, has 6 parts. We're going to look at the first 3. 1.3 looks at and focuses on our assessments. Students that take state assessments such as ACT, SAT, Compass, and the ASVAB are what get graded here. The percentage of graduates scoring at or above the state standard on the ACT, SAT, Compass, or the ASVAB scores are predicted here and shown. You look at 2013 and 2014, we had equal scores of 7.5 points per status out of 10, and we received 2 progress points. Same was occurred, earning a total of 9.5 in both 13 and 14. At the bottom, you can see that our 2012, 13, and 14 percent at or above scoring the state standard shows us at from 64% to 72. This is a report card, a rubric for 3.1 through 3, looking at our assessments. Percent of graduates scoring at or above the state standard, and we were at 64.2% on a 3-year average for status, which earned us a 7.5 points. We also increased 5% of the MPI gap. Therefore, we received 2 extra progress points in the area of college career readiness, 1.1 through 3, which is a total points of 9.5 out of 10. The second part of Standard 3 is called College Career Readiness 4. We look here, and that is looking at post-secondary preparation, looking at the percentage of graduates who earned a qualifying score on AP, Technical Skills Attainment, or TSA, and dual credit. Those are our big areas, and the counseling department worked extremely hard this year to try and make sure we have all of our items in the right place when it comes to scoring. The percent of graduates who earned a qualifying score AP or TSA or dual credit was 10 out of 10 for 2013 and 10 out of 10 in 2014. As you can see, we did score 7.5 out of 10 in progress points, but we scored 10 out of 10. You can only receive 10 points total, but we were able to score 10 points for the status and also showed a progress increase that was there, although we only get the 10 points. At the very bottom of the page, you can see that in 4, from 2014 to 2012, we were at here 26.1% all the way up to 50.1% in 14. So we had a great increase, over double. Again, we scored a 2020 target at 10, 51.8%, and we also received 25% of our CCR gap was met at another 7.5 points. So what about Standard 3, CCR 5 through 6? This is our graduate 180-day follow-up. When looking at this, it's the percentage of graduates who attain post-secondary education or training, are in the military, or who complete a department-approved career education program and are placed in an occupation directly related to their training by the number of graduates. So really, we're looking at the placement of our students. At the very bottom, you can see in 2012, we were at 80.3%. In 13, we were 83.7%. And in 2014, we were able to place 86.4% of our graduating seniors into the workforce or into a career field or into college. So we scored 10 out of 10 on this area. Our scoring guide shows this. 83.5% was our status 3-year average at 7.5 points, plus we were able to increase 15% of our MPI gap that gave us an extra 4 points. Mind you, we can only receive 10, so we were able to get all 10 of our points. Standard 4 is attendance. The district has a duty to ensure that all students regularly attend school. What we look at is we're trying to measure 90% of our kids attending 90% of the time. We had 3.1% increase in our overall proportional attendance rate last year between the years of 2010 and 2014. Again, our job is to ensure all students regularly attend school, and we actually focus on each of our individual student attendance. If you look at our scores, it's 10 out of 10 in 13, 10 out of 10 in 14. Our scoring guide shows the same. We did not receive progress points, but we were at 90.9% on our status. Our final standard is graduation rate. Graduation rate also has 30 points that it holds. What we look at here is we're always encouraged by the high graduation rate in performance on APR. This year, our GCR2 improved the 6-year graduation rate from 89.5% to 92.5%, which earned us 100% of our total graduation rate points. Now, when you look at these numbers, and I'll show you here in a minute, we received 22.5 points for status and 22.5 points for progress. Again, add those together, and it's well over our 30-point cap, so we did receive the full 30 points in that area. But what does that mean? What that means is when we look at the on-track that is identified in yellow here, the 4, 5, and 6-year rate has 82 to 91.9% on your graduation rate. We were at 91.3. So when looking at that as a 3-year or 6-year average rate, that's one area that we look at. That's where we receive the 22.5, although we are above the 90%. We also showed that we had over a 3% increase. So with this, our status is on track, or the 2020 track, with an extra 3%, giving us another 22.5 or exceeding. And that, of course, exceeds 30 points because 22.5 and 22.5 is our 45. So let's look at our goals for this year in 2015 using MPI targets. Remember, MPI is Map Performance Index. So in English Language Arts, on the 2015 ELA SBAC test, a district-wide MPI score of 358.8 for all students will be obtained with a status score of 9 and a MAP gap index of 1, resulting in an additional 3 progress points for an overall score of 12 out of 16. That's the goal for our English language arts. In math, on the 2015 Math SBAC test, a district-wide MPI score of 359.4 for all students will be obtained with a status score of 9 and a MAP gap index of 3%, resulting in an additional 6 progress points for an overall score of 15 out of 16. So let's talk about some celebrations. Congratulations to the district. In 2014, our API score was a 93.2%. That's an A, ladies and gentlemen, and we did reach our goal, and we met our goal as a district for our CSIP goal A. Gasconade County, our 2 school districts, still remains fully accredited and meeting 93.2% of the requirements for accredited with distinction if the ward still existed. So we're on track for all students being college and career ready. Look at the advanced placement. Percentage at or above the state average. Again, we have a very nice trend upward, and that is one that we're extremely excited about. Post-secondary placement, 180-degree follow-up. Again, 80, 83, 86. An excellent trend upward is what we're looking for. And we're going to celebrate attendance. Even though we had a small dip in 2013, we still have an overall average that in all 3 years we were at 90% or percent attending 90% of the time. And that's one area that we're looking at is 90-90. I want to thank you for your time, and I'm going to ask you, if you would, think back about questions that you might have and bring those to the board meeting. And I hope that you've enjoyed and participation in this flipped presentation. I hope everybody has a great evening, and we'll see you on Monday.